What industry is struggling way more than people think? Dry cleaners, WFH, and more casual wear, some places may never go back to anywhere near the same volume. Veterinary. On top of being notoriously low pay and high burnout, the hedge funds discovered us in the last 5 years. 90% of the local clinics in my area sold corporate and workers, and clients are increasingly unpleased. Corporates tried to push a human healthcare model because that works so well, increasing prices, block scheduling so vets see less patients in a day, and pushing insurance. Insurance is a great idea for emergencies, but last week, nationwide, the #1 pet insurer dropped 100K clients from their coverage. So now we have a bunch of hedge funders trying to run medicine like a retail or food business. You can't, and keep it ethical. Medical businesses should never be run like retail businesses, making people dependent on insurance, only for insurances to act like a business, and drop policies for not being profitable, in a field with no protections and very unlikely to ever get protections. I literally save lives. I do the job of a nurse, a CNA, a phlebotomist, a dental hygienist, a rad tech, an ultrasound tech, a pharmacist, a surgical tech, a groomer, a behavioralist, and a janitor every day, and I could make more at Walmart. I've been a professional video editor for the last 12 years and have never gone more than a week without a job. I've made stuff for many of the country's biggest brands and have a solid resume. For the first time in my life, I've been submitting resumes every single day for the last 4 months and have not had one interview. It's tough out there right now. Fingers crossed my luck takes a turn. Lineman for power lines. All the experience is retiring. It's a huge change right now. It's so crazy to read all these comments and personally remember a time when going to the mall, movies, bowling, arcades, restaurants, museums, art fairs, etc. were all regular activities. And people were excited for Teacher Celebration Week because they loved their teachers so much and couldn't wait to give them their gift, some homemade, and riding your bikes around with your friends to go sit in a field somewhere and talk was the highlight of your day after school. I kind of wish the world would just slow down. Emergency medical services, paramedics, and such. Live music. People see big concerts happening and assume live music is doing pretty much as well as it always has. Not true. Small and medium-sized venues are struggling hard. Local bands are struggling hard, and small to medium-sized touring acts are struggling hard. People don't go and seek out live music like they did 20 years ago. Small live music bars with built-in crowds of regulars who would always show up to check out the band of the week used to be commonplace. Today, they are very, very rare. Retail pharmacy. Complete lack of PBM regulation and corporate greed is going to lead to massive closures across the country. Veterinary medicine. I just got out. The average career is about 5 to 10 years before getting out for techs and assistants, etc. Emotionally, it's taxing. Not just because you're dealing with dying dogs every single day, but because management are all business people nowadays and don't know or give a fuck about medicine and blame you for not hitting quotas or overspending on supplies/overtime. Pay is low, especially considering student loans taken on to be a doctor or have a specialty. Not enough people are going into the field for the above reasons, and those who are don't stay. Suicide rates are some of the highest by trade. We all know someone who has taken their own life, including me. I won't go into specifics for respect. And I don't know any vet med worker who isn't in therapy, self-medicating with alcohol, getting too stoned to feel anymore with weed, or a mix of all three. This is just a brief list of problems. Trucking. I have been in transportation for 36 years, and you would be scared to drive on the same road if you met some of these truck drivers. Up until COVID, you would have a bad driver come through once in a while. Now, it's rare to have a driver that understands basic instructional. How are they passing driver tests? I try to stay off the freeways whenever possible. Every trade. They really think they can pay people $13 to $15 an hour when the cheapest one-bedroom not in the ghetto is $1,200 to $1,400 a month. 2-year degree, $8K worth of tools to get started in mine. The old heads wonder why the new guys quit when they get paid flat rate, and you're hiding their tools to fuck with them at work. This next generation wants to be paid a livable wage, not be abused, and to come to work to work. I'm all for them. Shops charge 200 a flat rate hour for jobs and pay these guys 15 to 30. It's abysmal. They can afford to pay people what they are worth. Every business can. Since COVID, hospitality, where I worked, used to be packed all weekend. Now we have nights on the weekend where we have more staff than customers. We used to never leave before midnight. Now we can be cleaning by 10 and having our shifties by 11. I've been working at my place for 5 years now, bar COVID, obviously. This summer was the least busy I've ever seen it. The auto industry, but they really did it to themselves. Too much inventory, no one buying the high-end trucks because they're too pricey. I work for a plant that makes parts for the big three, and we've been barely working 4 days a week, where pre-pandemic we were working 6-7 days. The alcohol business. The craft beer bubble burst. Wine is failing to capture any young demographic. Younger demographics tend to drink less, for health reasons, cost reasons, and many just prefer marijuana instead. The biggest alcohol distributor in the country just laid off around 3,500 people across the country. Yes, people will always drink, but the worse the economy gets, the more people will trade down to the cheap stuff. Medical. We are in a burnout epidemic, and we may see total system collapse depending on what the incoming administration does. Profiteering in medicine is driving all the issues. Understaffing, overcrowding, exorbitant C-suite pay, returns expected by shareholders, denied insurance claims, med school debt. It's a house of cards. This one's a bit niche, but being a luthier in the U.S. is about to get a whole lot more expensive if those tariffs end up being put in place. Pretty much every kind of wood used on violins, guitars, and other adjacent instruments is imported, not to mention all the tools you need. If all goes well, I'll be making and repairing violins professionally after I graduate in spring, which is pretty cool. I picked a bad time to get into the field, though. At least there's a high demand for it. Hollywood. There was the writers' strike, but the year after IAT, basically everyone else that's not a writer, producer, or actor was up for negotiation. No one wanted to make anything in that year because you could end up dead after a second strike. It never came to be, but a lot of us have been out of work for 2 years now. Let me again say we aren't the writers and producers. Think the carpenters, sound, color, costumes, etc. One industry that's struggling way more than people think is the publishing industry, especially print media. With the rise of digital content, social media, and free online news, traditional newspapers and magazines are finding it harder to compete. Print circulation is declining, and ad revenue has shifted toward digital platforms like Google and Facebook. Even with digital adaptations, the industry is dealing with shrinking profits, layoffs, and struggle to balance quality journalism with the demand for quicker, more sensational content. It's a tough time for a lot of publications trying to survive in a world where people want instant access to everything.